Welcome everyone, Tactical H here, and today we are back for another tournament battle in the Night Crew Clan internal tournament, Iron Sharpens Iron League. I was playing as the Grand Cavalier versus Bourgelicious Dwarves, and if you look at the map, you might notice this is indeed the Pillar of Bones where I have been ambushed twice in previous videos, also by the Dwarves each time, and today I am determined not to get ambushed again, so going for a rather melee heavy push. A full front line of Jade Warriors backed up by a couple Iron Hail Gunners and 2 Peasant Long Spears on the flanks. In the skies, we have a single Righteous Lancers of Wei Jing coupled with 2 units of Onyx Crowmen, one of them the Empress Crowmen with their devastating Nangao grenades. For the single entities, we have the Green Guardian with its Missile Reflection Aura and also Zhao Ming with nothing but his Dragon Transformation, Burning Vambraces for the Burst Heal and also Arcane Conduit for the extra power recharge. This setup is actually quite cheap at only 1,950 gold with a powerful melee monster that can easily heal cap itself. The spellcasting department would be taken over by the Alchemist with only a Searing Doom spell for bombarding dwarf lines. In the middle, we have a single Jet Lion providing a bit of mobile harmony aura, plus its Missile Mirror bound spell that can silence enemy missile units. As for Bourgelicious Dwarves, they're definitely up to something as there's only 1 unit of Dwarf Warriors in the main deployment zone. They're accompanied by 2 Thane heroes as well as Floric Ironbrow himself coming in with the Anvil of Doom providing that Rune of Doom buff, as well as the Rune of Negation and Rune of Wrath and Ruin. As for the main forces of the Dwarves, they are all Vanguard deployed on the other side of the battlefield. A bunch of explosive Vanguard deployed infantry, miners with blasting charges, Ekron's miners, the Regiment Renowned version. Not only do they have better stats, but also a couple more volleys of explosive charges. Norgrimling's Ironbreakers providing some very solid melee power, but most importantly, 5 units of Buckman's Rangers. All of them upgraded to 3 gold chevrons, so some very elite units of Dwarven missiles ready to shoot down my artillery. But unfortunately for them, there's no artillery in sight, and they will need to move into my backline and start shooting at perhaps the Iron Hail Gunners. Anyways, that is it for the army builds. Now let's get the battle started. Right at the start of battle, I looked at my opponent's formation at the main deployment zone, and noticing that is a rather small army, I thought that maybe the units are hidden somewhere around the units, and then I looked at the map and realized, oh, everything is right behind me. For a second, I thought maybe I should just push back with my infantry, but with all the Bugmans that might just be there, or the miners blowing up my infantry, I decided, you know what, this is not going to bode well if I send in my infantry, so I'll just send in my mobility. Jet Lion, the first one, diving into the fray, using the Missile Mirror to silence one of the Bugman's Rangers, while Zhao Ming transforming, and all the faster moving units, the Green Guardian, the Righteous Lancers of Wei Jing, and my Crowmen, who are Vanguard deployed all the way on the other side of battlefield, are moving back towards the miners and the Buckmans, while the infantry will go up and tie down all the Dwarf main deployment infantry units, the Dwarf Warriors and the Thane plus Floric himself, buying time for the Iron Hail Gunners to crossfire at Floric. Although Floric does have the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, blasting away some of the Iron Hail Gunners. Either ways, Righteous Lancers have dove into the Ekron's miners, dismantling them with their armor-piercing attacks. Green Guardian also disrupting some miners and will be moving forward towards the Buckman's Rangers. Its missile resistance can help it tank quite a bit of missiles and also the heavy armor too, tanking quite a bit of crossbow bolts, and on top of that the missile reflection aura, redirecting the bolts into the face of the Buckman's Rangers, quite literally forcing them to shoot their own foot. On the far side there, a bit of Searing Doom to whittle down some of these dwarf formations, and Zhao Ming has also engaged in combat, disrupting the Buckman's Rangers, preventing them from firing. The Crowmen at this point also have returned to the backlines, now swooping down to do some very solid impact damage with the help of Zhao Ming himself to these poor Buckman's Rangers. Now Buckmans, because they are not fighting large unit models, the Empress Crowmen and the other Crowmen are also infantry models, so their charge defense against large would not be effective at all, and you can see that only a single charge from the Empress Crowmen is already enough to take out a quarter of their health. On the far side there, I'm just trying to tie down the Dwarf Warriors and use the Iron Hail Gunners to really work down Thoric, but Thoric is really tanky with 25% of physical resistance and 15% of missile resistance. So 40% of resistance against the Iron Hail Gunner missiles, and will not be dying that fast. On top of that, there's also Rune of Negation that he can always use. Anyways, a little bit of Nangal Grenade, blasting away some of these poor Buckman's Rangers, basically demolishing the entire unit. Though honestly, I should have just left the Onyx Crowman in combat against the Buckmans, because as I pulled out and repositioned the Onyx Crowman, they took some unnecessary damage from the crossbow fire. Anyways, on the other side, the Onyx Crowmen, these ones stayed in combat and worked down the Buckmans eventually. Although the Buckmans, because of their gold chevrons, they fought back valiantly as well, doing some pretty good damage against my mobility units. Still, unfortunately, even with the regeneration and their 48 melee defense, the Righteous Lances and Onyx Crowmen are enough to work them down, while the Empress Crowman, with the support of the Green Guardian, absolutely demolishing all these remaining isolated vanguard forces. Now, for the other vanguard forces over here, the Norgrimling's Iron Breakers blasted away some of my Jade Warriors, and now we'll be moving on to support the single entity core, while the Buckmans over here will be left to die as the Peasant Longspear are hunting them down with the help of Zhao Ming. Once again, there is no spells from Zhao Ming. Most of the Winds of Magic goes into the Searing Dooms from the Metal Caster, which is pretty good at dealing with all these heavy armored tin cans. Also, the Green Guardian is moving towards the Norgrimling Iron Breakers. That means the Norgrimlings cannot use up their remaining blasting charges because they'll be blowing up their own self instead. However, the Jade Warriors are coming in to intercept, preventing them from pulling out, while the Green Guardian charging straight into their back, but not doing that much damage. Very minuscule impact damage there. At the same time, I'm picking off the separated dwarf units. All these isolated units will be cleaned up by my superior mobility game. The only hope of the dwarves is really just grind it out, but I would not give them that kind of hope, as the Searing Doom continues to work through the HP of Norgrimling Ironbreakers, but a really nice dodge from our opponent here, loosening up the formation of the Elite Ironbreakers, mitigating most of the spell damage. But Zhao Ming is also here, and now with the Green Guardian, they will be 2v1 the Thoric Ironbrow's Toilet Seat, although the two Thanes are coming in to support and might just be able to do some damage to Zhao Ming. They do lack armor piercing though, so their damage would not be as effective, but damage is still damage. A massive melee attack buff to the entire dwarf army. Even the Norgrimling Ironbreakers will be grinding through the HP of Zhao Ming, but another Searing Doom will be forcing them to pull out of that engagement. The Regiment of Renowned Ironbreakers trying to throw some blasting charges at my Peasant Longspears, but I'll be stopping them right in the nick of time. A Missile Mirror dropping on top of this entire unit, and they are forced to back off, unable to use their explosions because those will just go back straight into their face. The Norgrimling Ironbreakers have no choice but to move towards the Jade Warriors, while the single entity core of the Dwarf army is being worked down by my own armor-piercing single entities. Iron Hail Gunners returning to fire at Thoric Ironbrow and realizing that there is no option for the Dwarf army to outgrind my single entities. My opponent decided to forfeit the game. GG to my opponent Bujalicious here, going after a high risk, high reward vanguard heavy army build. All these Buckmans must have been a lot of investments into these units, but unfortunately they were not quite able to earn back their value, being immediately disrupted by all the armor piercing units on my end. The Righteous Lances, the Jet Lion, the Green Guardian, and Zhao Ming himself. These guys did some pretty good damage overall, but the true carry of the game is definitely my Crowman. 1,650 gold worth of damage value on the Empress Crowman plus 130 kills. The regular Crowman also getting almost 1,000 gold worth of damage value. Honestly, CA really needs to nerf the Crowman in the next patch, because especially the Empress Crowman, not only are they an elite flying infantry, they also have some explosions providing that extra damage output. High damage explosives on flying units are fine, for example, the Pterodon Riders, but the problem is that there's only 12 models on Pterodon Riders and so 12 explosions, unlike the Empress Crowman, which has 60 models, which means 60 explosions easily covering entire units of enemy infantry. and as a result, they had a lot more damage output than their price point implied. The rest of the army here not doing too much damage because most of the damage really were dealt by my armor piercing and fast moving units. As for the Dawi here, Floric tried his best. Norgrimbling Ironbreakers didn't really have the chance to fight it out before the dwarves concede the battle, while the Bugwinds Rangers unfortunately just not doing much damage, being dragged into very disadvantageous melee combat for them. Akron's Miners, the first one to fall victim to the charge of the Righteous Lances, while the Double Flame, they did some good damage to Zhao Ming, but not even able to force out his first burst heal. The rest of the Dwarf Infantry also not doing much damage overall. That's basically it for today's battle. I hope you all enjoy, and if you want to see more Total Warhammer multiplayer content, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.